Hi, and welcome to something new. This is this week's Meeting C++ blogroll highlight. And this is a new series where I want to talk about a highlight which was in the blogroll. And I'm going to do that every now and then, okay? And today it's going to be about a blog post from Ben Dean, who wrote a nice blog post about a new function syntax in C++ 23. That's also kind of the title of his blog post. So I'm going to have a link in the description. This is kind of the beginning of his blog post where he, states that we have various ways to do that, but with 23 we are actually able to describe and actually implement a multi-argument bracket operator, array operator, index operator, however you want to call the thing, and use it in this example like he does here, with a string view, and then return a string or a string view, and that's good. That's something nice. I thought I wanted to highlight that. He mentions the paper which this is based on, which is P2128. And that's a paper from last year, which went into C++ 23. And here you see basically their motivation is to have this maybe become part of mdspan. And then you can do like a matrix multiplication as like one of the examples they have in like, I've heard as examples. Which like I think the next thing we should look at, like, quick shout out to mdspan. It's not yet totally covered in the CPP reference, but this is also something which is coming to 23, which you might want to get familiar with. So this means that with 23 we are able to overload this index operator to have either no arguments, to have the traditional one argument like we are used to it, and also have a multi-argument operator, which then, it is your job to implement that. And as far as I understand it, this is like a normal function argument, so you can give that various types. So it doesn't have to be all ints. It could be like an int and a string or something else. You can be creative with that. Open questions, as far as I understand the paper, is they do not support to make this static, but are open to it. And they also did not cover to have this as a non-member operator, which would allow you to adopt types which do not have this implemented, right? Would be a nice thing, but that's outside of the scope of the paper from last year, at least. So that's potentially something which will be added to the language later. For the time, I understand it in the way that this is for member functions at the moment. So if your type wants to support that, that can. Otherwise, that's how it is. Potential for EDSL, so which stands for embedded domain-specific language. So I mentioned matrix multiplication. Multi-dimensional arrays is also something which this, I think, the mdspan example about. My personal thought was like this could also be like used naturally to show grouping in code. Like, we assign those variables now to this element, to this composite, for example, and it is, it is a function syntax. That is correct. It's basically a function call which you get with this in an operator, but as it is an operator, it's not a named function. So your plain vanilla normal function in C++ is not affected by this, and you cannot use square bracket. Just want to point that out. Which brings me again to his blogroll. This blog entry is really interesting, and yeah, so link is in the description. Go read it. It goes on and explains a few other things. And I do want to mention there's, of course, more highlights in this week's blogroll. There's also some videos. There are the lightning talks, which we had at Meeting C++ Online. There's the talk which we had this week at Meeting C++ Online about coroutines. And then there's the things which I found interesting is the move from optional, which is probably something you want to look at. The case for optional void on reference types on void is something kubeblock has a bunch of updates. And so, there's a lot to read. And there's even another blog post about C++23 having a new preprocessing directive thanks to C23. And if you want to subscribe to the blogroll, that's also, we'll add the link to that. And last but not least, I would just, this, as I already mentioned at the beginning, this is a new thing I do. Not every week. I have to have time, and there has to be something which stands out of the other blog posts, which I find interesting. It not always will be about 23. It can be a lot of things, and it has to be popular. So for blog authors, the best thing you can do to have your blog post covered in this is to kind of, make them popular. Just like, if I post them on social media, if you're on Twitter, retweet the tweet, like it, that it, gets seen by more people. And then I see, I get more reactions to it. I post it even on LinkedIn, etc., and then I might pick it. And so don't like try to make me pick your blog post, what I'm trying to say. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Now go read Ben's blog post and maybe look into the blogroll to look at the other good blog posts which have been out this week. Thank you.